Opulence and Keller.
Realtor instead of broker.
I didn't even put that. For the
Okay.
Zoom meeting description, I just put today's guest is Kayatrail of Atlanta Opulence and Keller Williams. And it's gonna go to my page. And they finally merged my pages, which I can't tell you how happy I am.
Good.
And let's see, we got about 30 seconds. I probably could have turned off the. All right, when it hits 8:30, I'll hit the live button because I don't want to hit it too soon.
Okay. Cool, cool, cool.
And then I will just start talking and introduce you. All right, here we go.
Okay.
So welcome to Live with Trish. This is Trish Ajel Roberts. I'm an author, coach, and speaker. And today we're gonna talk a little bit, play a little game tonight that involves energy association with colors. And my guest is Kayatrail. She's the founder of Atlanta Opulence and a real estate agent here at Keller Williams in Atlanta. So do you want to say hi and tell us a little bit about yourself, Kaya?
Sure. Hi, everybody. First, Trish, thank you for inviting me tonight. I'm looking forward to doing this. I know we're going to have fun.
We will.
And my name is Kayatrail. I am a local realtor in Atlanta. I've been in real estate for just over 3 years with Keller Williams, and as you said, founder of my own company, Atlanta Opulence. Before getting into real estate, I had a long running career in IT where I wore lots of hats. And I ended that in 2017 because I didn't have mind-blowing happiness. And there was no passion for it, right? And it didn't feed me. And I was looking for something that was personally fulfilling for me. So I took the leap in 2017, and I'm happy.
Yes, and you took the leap before I took the leap. So for those of you, we met each other, when we were both at our regular corporate jobs before we decided to kind of branch out on our own. And my mission is to help you slay self-doubt and limiting beliefs so you can juice up your journey and find mind-blowing happiness. And I realize that sometimes when I talk about mind-blowing happiness, that people are kind of like, what? Because there's a sense of either it's unattainable or that you cannot, or that you don't deserve it. So I'm here to tell you that it is attainable, and Kaya can tell you that too, and that you do deserve it. And I have a definition that I'm going to read to you. So I define mind-blowing happiness. It's really like another word for self-actualization. But the definition that I use is a state of deep joy and fulfillment characterized by a juicy life's journey steeped in passion, purpose, and the fulfillment and the realization of your fullest potential. So what could be better than that, right?
That's powerful.
And I'm committed to teaching the 12 steps to mind-blowing happiness to 12 million people over the course of 12 years. And I'm starting with the birthday launch of the second edition of my book, 12 Steps to Mind-Blowing Happiness. You can see it behind me. It's going to get a new cover and a new foreword from Marcy Shimoff, who is the author of the Chicken Soup for the Women's Soul books. So I'm excited about that. And it's going to be September 9th at the Gathering Spot here in Atlanta. Kaya's going to be there, I think.
Yes, yes, yes.
And everybody's invited, so come out. I'm excited to share that. So today's topic that we're going to be talking about today is maintaining emotional health. And I know that emotional health has been quite a topic of conversation during the pandemic, because I think, people were struggling with isolation and loneliness and, changes with their job, economic stress. Of course, we had racial issues, just all these things going on. And even now that things are lifting a bit, it's still a lot, trying to transition back to something that feels a little bit like normal. I don't know if you have any commentary on that before we get started with some of the questions I have.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I feel like, now we have this looming threat of like, potentially going a little bit backwards, right? As we get more news about what's going on with the virus, I think it's a little bit scary for people thinking about, oh my gosh, could we end back up in isolation again? So it's a lot.
Right. Yeah, it is, with all the conversation around barriers and stuff like that. So you and I were talking before we actually started recording about the retreat that I went on last week. I went to a Chopra retreat, which was amazing in Phoenix. And part of what we did, we had this exercise where it was like, we got to have adult temper tantrums. So I was like, we were all, maybe 20 of us, so we're lying on the floor on our yoga mats, on our backs. And they said to put the soles of your feet on the floor. And then we were just going to stomp our feet and slam our hands against the floor and like scream or do whatever we wanted. And at first it just sounded like a lot of fun, right? Because like, when's the last time you got to have a temper tantrum?
Right?
Without anybody calling up the doctor or, the police or something on you. But what was interesting was that I got a little emotional, during it because it was such a release. And then I heard like a number of different people who were there with me starting to cry, and at least one person was really, really bawling, like sobbing, kind of out of control. And I was like, wow, we don't usually get to do that. And I know you said that you're interested in retreats as well.
Definitely. Definitely. But, I think the key word that you said is release. What outlet, right, do we have on a regular basis to kind of get rid of some of the buildup of, negative emotions or experiences or whatever? I think we all need an outlet. I want an adult temper tantrum.
It was good. I'm trying to figure out where I can do it again without, like, because even at home, my daughter's going to be like, what are you doing,
Exactly.
without that judgment.
Exactly. I was telling you, like, sometimes I'm in my car and I want to let out a scream, right? But I'm like, the people next to me are probably looking and they're going to be like, what's wrong with that crazy lady, So,
Yeah,
but I
like
think it is important to have a release, an outlet.
We have to hold it together, as adults.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then what it made me think was, well, it's, you express interest in retreats. I've had therapy, I've been on retreats, I do for different practices, but some people are not very healthy emotionally, or even physically. And it made me think about, well, what's the difference between those who decide to take care of their wellness, especially their mental wellness, and those who really don't. So I put together a few barriers, that I thought we could talk about towards mental health, and then a few tips on things that you can do
That's awesome.
to do better. And I'm looking at my little notes here. I'm cheating. But this, I think, is a good point. I do this so that I don't forget anything. Because what's interesting is the same way that you can look at someone and not know whether or not they are healthy emotionally, it's the same thing physically. And I really learned that lesson with, oh gosh, I'm going to mess up his name right now. Chad Boswick.
Chadwick Boseman.
Okay, I knew I was messing something up. Chadwick Boseman. Yes, when he passed away, I was like, oh my God, he looked amazing. And he was.
And everybody was shocked, right? You just, because you wouldn't look at him and know that he had this deeply personal issue going on.
Right, right. And that was a physical issue and he looked physically well. So I think the kind of reflection on that is that there are people who are smiling who may have emotional issues and are hiding them behind a smile. So
I would agree with you 100%.
Something to think about. So my tips, or actually the barriers that I wanted to talk about to achieving mental health. And I guess, the flip side of a barrier is a tip, right? You get rid of the barrier and that's your tip. But the first one, of course, is the stigma, even though we've come a long way since, I guess, when I was a kid and you were a kid, there still is a lack of conversation about mental wellness, probably that's even more prevalent in the Black community than in the majority community. So what do you think about that?
I agree 100%. And I think that a lot has happened in recent years to bring more awareness to, mental health, but we still have a long way to go. And I think we can look at like really recent examples, right? If you think of Naomi Osaka, the tennis star, right? You think of Meghan Markle, the Duchess of, and as
and
recently
Simone
as
Biles
yesterday, I was going to say, as recently as yesterday, Simone Biles, right? And all of these women who happen to be women of color are taking a stand and saying, I'm going to protect my mental health. And look at the ridicule that has come behind it, right? So as much progress as we've made, there's still a lot more to overcome. And I think especially in communities of color, right? Because, and I think especially as women, we're taught we got to be strong and just take it all on and keep it moving, right? Again, without the outlet, without the release. And that's damaging to our mental health. And to not have anybody to talk to about it because of stigma is
and on the level that those women are on, I can't even imagine the amount of pressure that they're under. Like you and I feel a little something because we're doing a Facebook Live. Can you imagine if 100 million people were watching us?
And everybody had an opinion.
You got to do like a flip or a vault or something while the whole world is watching. So that's kind of that
you're just living your life, right? And that people can comment on it and, give you grief about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen negative comments. But it's probably because of just, the stuff that I watch is, I don't know. Was it on social media that you saw it or was it on TV?
Yeah, because I don't really watch the news. It was mostly on social media and it was mostly with Naomi Osaka and Meghan Markle. Like they said that Naomi Osaka was whining, right? And she should just get out there and do her job. And with Simone Biles, and I think there's still probably more to come on that because it just came out yesterday.
Right.
But she's saying she's taking a break for her mental health because a part of the issue is she feels like she's being scored differently than some of her counterparts because her ability is so much higher and she's not being graded on the excellence, right? On her ability, but they're kind of dumbing down her performance a little bit and saying, well, we have to score you this way because this is what everybody else can do.
And it's not something like that.
Yeah. And she was just talking about the pressure that she has riding on her because her team is expecting her to pull them through. And she's like, I just can't take on everybody else's stuff.
So
and I applaud her for that.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I applaud her and each of those women for taking a stand and saying, this is what I'm going to do to protect myself.
Yeah. And that is so important, having those boundaries to protect yourself. So the first color question, and I know you looked at these before. I haven't thought about my colors at all. I just write it up and keep it moving. But so did you have a color that you associated with the feeling of stigma?
I did. I thought red, right?
Red.
Red in terms of danger, right? And
Or even a
alert,
scarlet
right?
letter kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, but I think because the stigma exists in our community, it's dangerous, right? Because then people don't get to be honest or don't get to talk to people about it for fear of the stigma.
Hmm. And then to me, then it just kind of becomes this almost like a tumbleweed, or a snowball, because you can't talk. So it becomes a lack of authenticity, and then it leads to
Yeah.
isolation. And then it becomes this kind of thing that continues to grow and fester, because it's
Mhm.
not acceptable to have a
And worsens,
conversation about it.
I'm sorry, yeah. And then
Yeah.
worsens your situation, right? It only gets worse as you go through each of the stages that you just named.
I knew the dog would come around, and he came around with his little collar clanking all over the place. So for me, when I thought about stigma, I felt like it's like dark brown or something like that. Cause I just imagined going into like a hole, like in the dirt.
Mm,
Not that dirt is bad, because dirt's pretty awesome, but it just made me think of like kind of going into a black hole or disappearing in the ground,
yeah,
because you can't acknowledge the way that you're feeling,
right.
and these are things that I think everybody has to manage. We all have to manage our mental health. It's not like some people do and some people don't. Some people may have more trauma or more genetic chemicals type stuff that they have to work with. But I
Right.
think everybody's got to stress. We all have
Yes.
stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So we
Agreed.
got black and we got dark brown. Okay.
No,
So then,
red.
oh yeah, yeah, yes. I'm telling you, that's one thing. When I first started doing recordings, sometimes I would swear I said something and I said something else. So I can imagine. Yeah, where did I get that? Yes, red. Thank you. Red, like the scarlet letter,
Yes.
and the dark brown, like the falling into a dark hole.
Hmm.
Um, so the second barrier to maintaining tip-top emotional health that I came up with is glorification of toxic behavior.
Mm,
And, I think that we see this a lot in corporate CEO types, definitely in our last White House administration. And, he came from that corporate CEO type before he got there.
hmm.
Um, but I think for some people, behaving really badly can serve them kind of well. Like, I don't
Right.
think that they're having great, healthy relationships, but sometimes they say nice guys finish last. And if you step on someone's neck or whatever on the way to the top, it could kind of work for you. So
Hmm.
any comments on?
Yeah, I think the sad reality is the glorification of negative behavior is almost normal, right?
Mhm.
I think when you see it in the reverse, we're pleasantly surprised that
Yeah,
somebody is treating a person with respect and dignity and decency.
that's
Um,
true. Yeah.
and I think it's just a sad reality of our society right now. And I do think that it's been a problem, right? But I do think that with our last administration, we saw a whole lot more of it than we had. Um, and it was funny, right? It was made, making fun of other people, right, at their expense, whether it was a disability that they suffered with, or a difference of opinion, or because you were the opposite sex, right? There were all these things that,
Mhm.
opened you up for ridicule, and people celebrated it. They celebrated the behavior. So,
And gaslighting, don't forget the gaslighting, because it's still taking place. I never
mhm,
said that. That never happened. It's like, well, wait,
yeah.
like even now with the Capitol riots, it's like, well, you're looking at a video.
I'm like, did I not see what I thought I saw?
You
Right?
remember this is old for people who were younger, but for people who remember Eddie Murphy back in the early days, I don't know if you remember this,
Of
but
course.
he used to do a joke, are you going to believe me or your lying eyes? And I think that's before we knew the term gaslighting, you
Yes.
know? Yeah, so
That's right. That's right.
it's craziness. Um, I'm trying to see if I'm missing anything here. Yeah, sometimes people say the means justify the end, you know, and
Mhm.
then when you reach that level, people respect you and maybe fear you a little bit just because
Mhm.
of your position and aren't anymore like concerned with how you got there. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think people feel like, well, I'm successful,
right.
right? So it must have
Hmm.
worked. If, that's what it takes, and excuse their own behavior, and people begin to excuse their behavior. They're like, because, well, look at what it got them. They're
You're right.
successful.
You're right though, because I think that the what's normal has become more the toxic behavior than the healthy, you know,
Yeah.
behavior with integrity. Like if
Yeah.
you work at a company, like for me now, it's like if I work with a company that has a lot of integrity, I'm so excited because
Yes.
it's not the norm. Yeah, it's like
It's so true.
integrity. I like the taste of that.
Give me more, right? It's so
Yes,
true.
yeah. Um, yes, I feel like I was going to say something else, but now I don't know what it was. So give me, what do you, I don't know, what do you think this glorification of toxic behavior, um, what does that say to you from a color perspective?
So I said black for this one. And I
Mm,
was thinking black because it's a void, right? A void in human compassion, and a care and concern for humanity. Our society is void of those things, and void is blackness, right? And so I
mhm.
came up with black for that one.
Now I remembered what I was going to say.
Mhm.
Whistleblowers.
Mm,
That's
don't do
always
it.
been, well, you know, just from what my whole life, I could never understand, like, why is the whistleblower getting in trouble? They're the one who's supposed to be bringing the attention to something that's wrong. But girl, they will string that whistleblower up and
That's
blacklist
why.
them, never work, you know, the whole bit.
That's
So
why I
yeah.
said it's like, don't do it, right? Because, and I say that facetiously, right? Because of course you should, but the whistleblower ends up being the
Did you?
person. It's like, I remember in my old corporate jobs, and I'm sure you probably do too, where they would have posters for the whistleblower hotline, right? Like if there was
Mm,
something inappropriate going on, call and report it, but not with the backlash and the repercussion that comes with it. Again,
mhm.
because our society has normalized bad behavior.
Yeah, yeah. And I did want to make a little comment about the color little thing that we're doing tonight.
Mhm.
So if you follow me at all, you know, I've been doing some rebranding and I've got like these brand colors and stuff like that. And I started working with an image consultant, which I really resisted because I was just like, I don't want anybody telling me what to wear. Da, da, da. But so I learned basically that, you know, that I can just wear colors that I like. And one of the things that she talked about was the impact colors have on other people. And I actually blogged
Mhm.
about this before a while back,
Mhm.
at the time that it was happening. So it's interesting the impact that colors have on us, even in therapy and all these kind of things.
Mhm.
But what I found that was interesting to me, and maybe this might inspire someone, I don't know, was the impact that the colors had on me. I wasn't expecting that. You know, so when I
Mhm.
started wearing, like, I really love like oranges and apricots and peaches, and you know, I have my little orangey red on right now,
Mhm.
hot pinks and stuff. And when I started wearing these colors, they made me happier wearing them. Besides the fact that
Mhm.
they impact the people, you know, well, it's nice to impact people, but I really like impacting me. So I
Yeah,
just thought
right.
it was so interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up. I was at a real estate conference in 2018, and I wore a hot pink blazer to
Mm,
one of the breakout sessions, and they were doing a personality profile, right? And I was having trouble identifying my profile. So I raised my hand, and the um, facilitator, she's like, "So you're having trouble identifying, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Who bought that blazer that you're wearing?" And I'm like, "Me." She said, "The color of that blazer tells me everything I need to know about you." She said, "The fact
mm,
that you went and bought it and that you wore it here tells me everything I need to know about you and your personality," which I thought was really amazing.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Um, but so for me, let me see. So glorification of toxic behavior, I think for me that came up as like a dark purple. I think in my head, it made me think of, the emperor has no clothes, or like, lifting someone up to this position of authority or glorification. But at the same time, it being like a evil, like an evil emperor kind of thing, Cruella de Vil or something like that. So yeah, that's how that one popped up for me. So the third barrier that I had here, from keeping yourself in tip-top emotional health, is resistance to change. And I know a lot of people struggle with that. I've always been pretty weird because I think I've always liked change. I guess I just get a little bored, in my head.
Yeah.
But let me see. Yeah, so, you need a certain level of self-awareness and a willingness to recognize negative aspects of yourself, and a willingness to try to change yourself in order to kind of keep healthy in that way, because we all respond to stress and age and, whatever roles we are playing in life, or sometimes the roles change, if you have kids, the kids get old, whatever, however that works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, resistance to change. How are you with change, do you think? Well, you've been doing all kinds of stuff like me, so.
Yeah, so I think like you, change is not so difficult for me. I think like you said, because I get bored, right? And I'm open to change, but I know that change is hard for a lot of people. And even when I worked in IT, and we were rolling out new software, new programs, or some kind of change in policy, we would hire change managers and
Yeah.
call them change champions, right? To kind of help promote the change and bring people along, because it's easy to stay where you are and do what we do, right? To do your normal. And anything that requires additional effort it can be challenging for some people.
Yeah, because you need that buy-in too. They want to know why, and yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, like for me, like you said, I mean, when I left corporate America, I'm like, something has to change, right? Like this has to change. I will not commit the next 25 years, until I get to the age of retirement to do this, because I'm afraid of change. And I was afraid, right? And I'm sure you
Yeah.
had some apprehensions too, right?
Every day, I just keep it moving. That's why I have to have temper tantrums.
Right. That's why I need one. That's right.
So do you have a color for change? I think I have my color.
You go first.
Well, I'm stealing your old color because it's easy.
mine.
Because for me, I think of red, like stop sign red, like I don't want to change, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this, head down, stop sign red.
Yeah. I think for me, I'm going with green, like go. Just go. Green symbolizing, growth and movement.
But it's supposed to be resistance, the resistance to change.
Yeah, the resistance would be red, I guess. But I guess I'm thinking, more the other side of the resistance. But yeah, I would agree with you. The resistance would be red.
Yeah. Okay. I like adding colors. Colors are they've become so much more interesting to me now, because I never thought about, how they affect your emotions. So this next one was a term one of my girlfriends came up with, which is emotional laziness. And I was like, I think that is a thing, emotional laziness, because you may be okay with change. Maybe there's no stigma. Maybe you're not glorifying toxic behavior, but you just don't care. Or you don't want to put in any effort is probably the better way to do it. Maybe, as a matter of fact, I was reading about self-help books, because I have a new book that I'm working on for next year. And one of the things that I was reading with the self-help book market is that people will buy books, but they don't want to do any work sometimes, so yeah, you may even have something you want to change, identify it, the whole bit, but then you don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
And change doesn't happen with zero effort unless you're like just falling, right?
Right. And it's funny because I did link this one to change. When I thought emotional laziness, I'm like, yeah, I think again, it's easy to do what we've always done or easy to do nothing, right? And it requires effort um, for change. And for me, you know, that emotional laziness, you don't grow in that. You don't get to stretch yourself and grow and develop. Um, and so yeah, I kind of link that back to change. I'm like, I no emotional laziness, right? Let's focus on the other side of that, which equals change.
It's like moving forward. Like in my head, I love a metaphor and I could tweak a metaphor to death. But like I'm thinking if you wanted to like if somebody pushes you down a flight of steps, it's change, but you did nothing.
Yeah,
But if you want to climb the steps, you got to
yeah,
do it yourself. I mean,
yeah,
um, yeah,
yeah.
so there's some level of effort unless it's just like a collapse, in my head. So
And that's probably not the change we want,
that we
right?
want, right? Exactly. That is not the move, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So emotional laziness, I have a color for that. Do you have a color?
I was thinking like beige because it's
Yeah,
just
babe.
blah.
Yeah, I was thinking gray,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
Yeah, the color of inertia.
right. That's right.
Okay, so we're up to the fifth one for
Okay.
barriers, and then we're going to move on to some tips. But the fifth one that I had, and I think this is a big one, especially in this country where the healthcare system really stinks, is
Mhm.
lack of access. And I don't think I knew how much it stinks over here until I hung out with some Canadians, and they were just like, "Oh my God, we don't even think about healthcare because we just have it." And I was just, anyway, it's a long story.
Mhm.
So, many of us, even if you have good health care, you may have $100 or $150 copay to meet with the therapist every time you meet with them, which for a lot of people just isn't affordable. Um,
Mhm.
and then, you might have access to the internet and libraries, maybe to get your hands on some books. But for a lot of times, and then forget about if you don't have health care. I mean, then you're
Yeah,
not even gonna
because
get a copay. I mean, some
right.
therapists have got sliding scales and stuff, but it's difficult.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, right, like we talking about a $150 copay, but when you don't have an insurance, you're talking about $150 an hour, you know? And I've had good insurance in my corporate jobs, and I've been to therapy before.
Hmm.
And even with my insurance, they're like, well, you pay out of pocket, but then, you can go back to your insurance to get reimbursed. And it's very costly. And I think lack of access is a huge issue in this country. And I believe that's why so many of the negative stories that we see on the news and see in the world, it's as a result of lack of access, right?
Hmm.
Because if people can't get help, they're going to have an outlet, right? A tantrum in a different kind of way, right? That
Right,
tantrum is
right.
going to end up being a mass shooting, right?
Hmm.
Or something, some other way to get it out because they don't have access to the help that they
Yeah,
need.
it could be violence against yourself or others, or
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people suffering from depression, anxiety, all of these things. I know with me, I used to see a therapist who's fabulous. I put her in my books as a
Hmm.
resource out here in Atlanta. But then it reached a point where I don't know if the rules changed or she changed her policies or whatever, but it was like if I wasn't diagnosed with something, like if I was just working through issues and stressed or,
Hmm.
even talking about past traumas, if she couldn't classify me as like generalized anxiety disorder or depression, like if she couldn't give a name to it and make it
Hmm.
like I had a condition,
Hmm.
then she couldn't file it under insurance. So
Same thing
that
happened to
presented
me.
a problem,
Hmm.
because it's like asking the doctors to be unethical, but
Hmm.
at the same time, talking to someone doesn't mean that you have, a condition that they can assign a number to, or however they classify them from the Psychological Association handbook, however that works, which I don't really know, but
Yeah.
you know what I
Or
mean? Yeah.
yeah, or because you're talking to somebody that you need medication, right? Because that's what I ran into. It's like, well, oh, well, we kind of have to diagnose you so that we can
Yeah, because it's probably the same
prescribe. And
thing.
I'm like, I just wanted to talk, right? I
Right.
just wanted to talk about what was going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I ran into a very similar roadblock, and
Mm-hmm.
that was with really good insurance.
Yeah. Yeah. I had, good insurance at the time as well. Because I think at that point, we couldn't file unless we created some sort of ailment for me. And of course, my provider was very ethical and did not want to do that. Some places they may just create something, and then you never know how those things may impact you later. Because, I used to work in insurance.
Hmm.
And insurance, they may pull up your records later and say, you want life insurance. Well, what is this prescription, or what is this diagnosis? And,
Hmm.
those things can come back
And I
and
think that goes back to stigma, doesn't it?
well, yeah, that's true too. That is very true too.
So,
Yeah. I had a client many years ago whose husband was struggling with alcoholism, and he went and got treated for alcoholism. And I
mhm.
guess he got better, was doing better. But then when he wanted to get life insurance, he was being penalized because he had, sought help. So yeah, the whole system just doesn't even really make
No,
any sense.
no, it
So,
does not.
but so that last barrier is financial, I guess is the, so I'm just gonna go with green, or maybe I should go with gold. I don't know.
I
Let me
like
think about
gold.
that
I
financial.
like gold.
I think for financial, I would go with dark green,
Okay.
like more of a
Mhm.
forest green, not like a bright green.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's funny that money's green, like this tree behind me, because there is a richness in that green,
It is.
you know?
There is. There is. I
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think for financial, um, I'm gonna go with the metallics. I'm gonna go with the gold and silver. Um, and I hope that that's something, where we'll see this change, right? And that finances won't be a barrier for people being able to get the help that they need, access to healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with understanding why this country does not want healthcare, I
Especially
guess
because we're the richest country in the world, right?
I guess I have an idea of it, but that's probably a whole nother conversation, because I think that people do want healthcare, but it's to the benefit of certain folks to not have healthcare provided, so there's a little um, kind of a, I don't know if brainwashing is the right word, but there's misinformation campaign going on around that. So
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we'll see healthcare in our lifetimes in this country. I don't
I tell
know.
you what, I don't
We
know
might all
either
have to go
because
to
we
Canada.
we got awfully close, right? And everything, that's a whole nother
That's a
conversation,
whole nother
right?
thing. Yeah. You'll have to come back another time.
I would love
we could,
to.
we could, we could talk about that. Um, okay. So what can you do to make a commitment to improving your emotional health? And how can you decrease negative emotions that hamper your ability to experience consistent joy and self-love and have a juicy life's journey and all that good stuff? So I
Mhm.
have 4 recommendations, um, and we'll add some colors on because it's colors make me happy.
Mhm.
The first one that I have, and I toyed with this a few times because I put schedule yourself. And at first I was kind of like, schedule time for you, schedule me time, blah, blah, blah. But I was just like, no, schedule yourself, like put it on your calendar, whatever it is you're trying to do. Because when it's filed up here,
Mhm.
it's so easy to just not even set aside any time for your own wellness, whatever it is. If it's, you know, 15 minutes to have a tantrum, or sing at the top of your lungs, or meditate, or
Yeah.
journal, whatever it is that you do. um, I mean, it's amazing if you could set aside an hour a day. I know people have a hard time finding time for themselves, but I think it's a lot easier when you put it on the calendar.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that this was, it's so important, but it's something that we don't do. And I'll be honest, it's something that I struggle with, right? I want to be able to create a sacred space and time for myself, to just learn to, take care of me. And I think that so many of us are used to taking care of others and
Mhm.
not dedicating enough time for self-care. And I want to do better at that.
Yeah, the Chopra retreat really kind of, even though it feels like, what is it, reintegration? What is it when they go from space and then they come back? There's a word for that.
Reentry?
I guess it is reentry. Yeah. So it kind of feels like that, going from this like la place where we're like meditating twice a day and eating this detox diet and doing aerial yoga, whatever, and then coming back to regular life where it's like, okay, I
And
got deadlines, I
thrown
got all
back
this stuff.
in. Yeah.
But I think that practice of meditating twice a day, I'm like, okay, I can at least meditate once a day. And honestly, I teach meditation, but I've always taught it from a spiritual perspective, like for, mental clarity, for connecting to divine consciousness, for focus, for
Mhm.
improving your temperament, creating space between trigger and response, all of this great stuff. But I
Mhm.
really didn't teach it from a medical health perspective, which
Mhm.
was something that I learned more about last week, where it's like lowers inflammation in your body. I didn't know that.
Oh, me either.
Like I knew blood pressure a little bit. I didn't think a whole lot about it. Look who's falling down. Okay. But I didn't know
Hi,
like
Cooper.
inflammation. Yeah. Cooper, say hi. Look, he doesn't care.
Oh, he's sweet.
Like, what time is it? What is happening right now? um, yeah, so I learned a lot about that.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, you could incorporate 5 minutes of meditation, but just
Do
something to
something,
schedule time
right?
for yourself.
Yeah.
Let's say at least 30 minutes. Because 30 minutes, sometimes it takes you 15 minutes to sit down.
Right. I agree.
Oh gosh, yeah. So let me see, what color do you associate with making time for yourself?
So for this one, I think I'm gonna go with blue.
I go with blue.
Because
That's funny.
it's calming, right?
Mhm.
Um, and that's what this self-care thing is all about. So
Yeah, I like. It's so funny because I thought it like sky blue. Were you thinking of a
yeah,
sky blue?
I almost said sky blue. Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes when we do or teach meditation, we teach kind of like think like your mind is clear like the sky, and your thoughts are
Mhm.
kind of like passing clouds. So you
Okay.
don't have to follow every thought and get all wrapped up with it. You can just kind of observe it and let it go.
Mhm.
So yeah, I just thought, yeah, sky blue.
Yeah. We were
Mhm.
in sync on that one.
Yeah. And of course, let me see, I had notes here about some things that you can do with your time. And I don't want to leave this part out because you could work through some of your favorite self-help books, like Thinking Outside the Chrysalis, A Black Woman's Guide to Spreading Her Wings, or 12 Steps to Mind-Blowing Happiness, a
I can't
journal of
wait for that
insights,
one. Yes, I
quotes, and
cannot wait.
questions to juice up your journey. Yeah, I'm excited about the new version of it. It's
Yeah.
going to be really, it's funny because it's going to have a lot more color,
Mhm.
in the cover, as well as additional content inside. So it'll be
Well,
fun.
I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to your launch.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Yeah. But of course, you can look forward to it and relax. I have to look forward to it and do all this work. I'm like, where's my
Don't for,
staff?
don't forget to meditate.
Exactly. I'm like, oh, yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And that leads us into our next one. And this was really based on what I was telling you. Like, I already love meditation, but I learned so much more about what it could do. So
Mhm.
next recommendation is definitely learn to meditate.
I want to. I that is something that I've tried, and really want to put more energy and focus around that, be a lot more intentional about it. And I'm sure a million other people have this same thing, right? When you first sit down to meditate, you start off and then you just find your mind wandering, right?
Mm-hmm.
But learning to at least just, come back to it. So even if I find my mind wandering, I still want to take that time, right? And that space to sit in silence. And when I realize that it's wandering, just kind of bring it back to my breath, or, to where I am in the room.
I think the biggest trick is non-judgment, which is probably the next one that we go into, because a lot of times what happens is, and the thing is, all of us have these minds that wander. That's kind of almost the nature of our minds. They say we have between 60,000 and 80,000 thoughts per day. So there's constantly something going on in there. But what I find is people will say, I can't meditate, or my mind is so busy. But it becomes this kind of self-flagellation, like there's something wrong with me, this judgment, I'm not doing it right, And if you can just release that and just forget about doing it right, you're by yourself, no one cares, first of all. Nobody cares,
And
You're
nobody
sitting inside
knows.
nobody knows, it's all part of this internal dialogue. Am I doing it? Am I not doing it? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong?
You're right.
I don't think this is it. Is this it? So if you just kind of let that go, and I do like to have some kind of anchor. So the easiest, well, everybody has different anchors that work for them, but the one that I talked about in the blog this past week was just your breath, just noticing your breath, noticing the sensation of air as it enters and leaves the nostrils. It's cooler on the inhalation, warmer on the exhalation, and just focus on that as your anchor, like your one thing to think about, because your brain needs something to do.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, so you got to give it one thing. And then your mind's still going to wander.
Yeah.
But when it does, instead of yelling at yourself, like, I'm not doing it right, just talk to yourself like you're like just the sweetest little somebody, like, oh, I see what you're doing. Just come back to the breath. It's okay. We love you, whatever, however you talk to yourself.
I think that's so important though, right? Because rather than allowing it to be something else that we judge ourselves on, or, beat ourselves up on, give ourselves some grace. Like you said, nobody else knows. It's all up here.
And everybody does the same thing. Well, he's knocking the whole house down, so he can go take a nap.
Yeah.
I got a cup here. He's about to knock over everything. Yeah.
He wants everybody to know he's here. That's what it is.
Exactly. He wants to have a tantrum is what it was. Knock down the computer, my drink, right? He's looking at me, everything.
Oh.
Yeah. So I talked about starting with 5 minutes and working your way up. And I talked about inflammation, blood pressure, and also it promotes longevity. I think because it's something, I can't remember what it is, but it's some gene that's associated with aging and wrinkling and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, hello.
Wow.
So you better be like, oh.
Every day.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, I gotta
That's
up my own
amazing.
game.
Yes, that's amazing.
Yeah. So let me see. What color do you associate with meditation?
I'm gonna go with lavender.
What made you think of lavender?
Because I thought of being soothed, something soothing, and it brought me to lavender.
It's interesting because some people see color when they meditate, or I guess even when they close their eyes. And sometimes they'll say that that's the color of your aura, and the different colors mean different things. I'm not really well versed in that, but when I was at the retreat last week, this woman was like, normally I see purple and green, and now I saw orange and yellow, and I was like so jealous. I'm like, I don't see all that good stuff,
Right?
So for me, I guess I thought of like a pale yellow. And thought about that because I've done a lot of meditations and even have guided meditations where we kind of imagine light coming through the crown of the head,
Mhm.
that's like a radiant kind of golden yellow light or white light. So yeah, it made me think about that. And also like when you go through like the chakra system in the body,
Mhm.
the crown chakra is the same thing. It's like this kind of um, white or pale yellow, which I think is kind of related to this idea of divine consciousness, like
Mhm.
awakening,
Right.
so yeah.
Wow. I learned so much
You
tonight.
got to get into your meditation so you can
Yes. So I
get
can
all that
reduce this
divine consciousness.
inflammation, right? Which reduces sickness.
Inflammation reduces, I mean, everything is related to inflammation. Alzheimer's,
Yes.
heart disease,
Yes.
um, arthritis. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
When we get
powerful.
off this call, we're gonna have to go and
Yes,
go and meditate.
that's exactly right. That's where I'm going. Yes.
Yeah, I think they say like we should all be able to go to 120 if we weren't all, destroying our body with pesticides and toxins and poor diets and
Yeah. Lack of
stress,
exercise and stress.
lack
Exactly.
of rest, all the things we do.
I
Hmm.
know. I know.
Yeah, so is this my last one? No, we have two left. Yep, we got two left. Okay, so let's see. So the third kind of recommendation is be your own bestie. Yay. If
Yay.
you treat yourself like crap, like who is going to be treating you better than the way you treat yourself?
That's right. That's right.
But I do think a
Yeah.
lot of us have, I know I had to work on it for myself, that internal voice, whether it was judging or, I mean, probably just mainly judging, like I've heard other people who could be very like self-deprecating to
Hmm.
themselves,
Hmm.
which is always awkward.
Yeah. I
Have
don't,
you been around anybody like that before who's like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. I'm such an idiot.
and it bothers me. It makes me feel uncomfortable,
Yeah,
right?
and
When
I
I
do
hear other
too.
people doing that. And it's like, no, you're not. Like it makes you sad that people feel that way about themselves.
And then you have to
Um,
argue with them about themselves. No, you're not.
yeah,
Yes, I am. It's like, wait a minute, what
yeah,
kind of conversation is this? This is terrible.
yeah. But I can tell you personally, one of the things that I struggle with, and I ask myself, I'll give a simple thing like drinking water.
Hmm.
I know. And you remember the last time we had lunch, I was trying to force
You were doing
myself to
good.
drink all of my
Hmm.
water. Um, and something as simple as that I know is good for me and good for the body that I don't do. And I ask myself, why are you abusing yourself, right? By not doing the things that you know you need to do to take better care of you, whether it's exercise, healthy diet, you know, drinking water, right? Just making time, like you said, schedule yourself, right? Just kind of doing those things. And I'm not being my own bestie if I'm not drinking my water like I should be, right?
Well,
So,
I struggle with that water thing too.
mm,
But because I am my own bestie, I don't give myself a whole lot of shit if I don't drink my water.
see, and I'm probably the opposite, right? I'm like, why did you do that today?
I'm just doing my best. I mean,
Hmm.
I guess the thing is like I try to talk to myself the way that I would talk to a child that I loved. So
Hmm.
if I told my daughter to drink her water and she didn't drink the water, I wouldn't yell at her about not drinking the water. I
Right,
might be like,
right.
well, what happened to your water? You don't
Hmm.
want it? You know? Can we do
Yeah,
something to make it taste a little better? Like how would that, what we could do to make the water, something that makes you happier? Or you could do more like fruits and things that have water in them.
hmm, yeah. And I think the key to this is, like you said, being your own bestie, right? And so if I don't do what I, set out to do, again, give myself some grace, right? And try to do better the next time, right? Because if overall I know that that's good for me, it's a habit I want to develop and to continue to work with myself on doing that.
Yeah, I found a bottle. I don't know if you have one of these where you can put like, look at him. He's so over us. Where you can put like, you know, fruits in there. Like I slice. My girlfriend got me doing this one too, slicing lemons and putting a little bit of mint, and
Mhm.
then it's got the little strainer, so it doesn't go into your mouth. You know, it just flavors it like you can infuse your water with different
Yeah,
stuff.
I have
Or we
tried
started throwing.
everything.
Oh, I started throwing herbal tea bags in there.
Hmm, that's an idea.
Yeah, it helps, you know, and ginger, like we started taking fennel when we were in the retreat because
Mhm.
ginger and fennel is supposed to be good for digestion and like weight loss and stuff like that. And
Mm.
they taste, but to me, anything tastes better than water. Even when the
Mhm.
water is good, it's still water, you know?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you don't want to start adding, you know, teaspoons full of sugar in there,
And make
but
it
I think
Kool-Aid.
herbal teas, what did you say?
I said, and make it Kool-Aid.
Yeah, exactly. It's just water with a pack of Kool-Aid in it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. So yeah, be kind to yourself.
yes.
Mhm.
I love that one.
And last one, which I think is another, oh wait, we didn't do colors for this.
Oh, so
What
being
color
your
do you,
own,
so I'm gonna call it self-love. So what color do you associate with self-love? I know
I'm
that you,
gonna give it pink.
I was gonna get pink too. See, that's how like these marketers probably know how to sell us stuff because they know what we associate.
Right, right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was
I
going with
don't know if
pink
you're
also.
hearing a little background noise, but I have a little
It's
something
not
going
much.
on in the background. Okay.
Yeah, they fixing it.
Yes.
She had a AC crisis, so I'm glad that they're taking care of that because nobody wants an AC crisis in
No.
Atlanta. Yeah, but it's not really noisy. I could just
Okay,
hear a
great.
little. But I
Okay.
had a little something going on here too. I think there was a dog or something. I don't know if you heard that.
Nope.
Somebody outside barking or
Nope.
doing something.
Didn't hear
So,
that.
so the last one that I have for like my tips is to invest in yourself and you know, invest in your emotional health and wellness. Because listen, we all spend money on stuff that we want to do, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how big our budgets are or how small our budgets are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, you can tell a lot about a person by the way they spend their money. And one of the kind of tips inside my tip that I gave is if you really feel like you don't have a budget for something, then maybe move something away from something that you know you're not supposed to be spending your money on anyway.
Like I
And
can
move it
skip this
over,
meal out tonight.
move it away from, I don't know, whatever bad habits you might be working on, or, you know,
Yeah.
and maybe move a little over to a mental wellness budget.
Agreed. Agreed.
Hmm. Do you have any favorite? Because like I'm thinking of Jeju right now, you know, the Korean spa out here.
I love that place.
Me too, but I'm like, it's like 25 or 30 bucks. And you can
Yeah,
spend the whole day up in there, you
you
know?
can. One of the things I went to Jamaica last month. But before going, I went and I had a hydrofacial, which I had never
Mm,
had before. And it did feel it was an investment in me, right? And it was good for my mental health, right? Because it was a moment where I got to relax and I got to unwind and I got to be a little
mhm.
pampered and just have somebody put some time and attention to me. So, if you get a massage once a month, right? Just some
Mhm,
investment. Skip a meal out, right? To put some
mhm.
money back into something that's going to be good for you.
Yeah. And anytime you do those things that are exfoliating, you know, they detox the body as well. So there's
Mhm.
physical health involved in that also.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. I feel like I was going to say something else about investing. Oh, I know what I was going to say because I was interviewing somebody today for an article that I'm doing on hiking in the Black
Mhm.
community. And
Mhm.
hiking is a great example of something that you can do this for free. You know,
Yes.
I mean, whether it's just, you know, they like to say urban hikes now because it sounds cute, but that's
I
basically
know it's
taking a
the
walk in
end
your
thing.
neighborhood, right? It's an urban hike.
That's right.
just, there's so many trails out here, but getting on a trail or taking a walk, I mean, yeah, even some people who
Yeah,
walk in their lunch hour just for kind of a mental health break.
yeah.
Hmm.
And get a buddy, right? Bring them along too for a walk.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I was gonna think sometimes it's like a moving meditation, you
Mhm.
know? So sometimes you gotta get the right buddy. Because
You're
sometimes those buddies
right.
be like, "Kiki, kiki, kiki, kiki," or
Let
they
me
might be
tell you.
complaining about their manager and office. And
Yeah, you are
I
so
need to leave
right.
a buddy behind next time.
I had that experience, right, where I was like, well, dang, I like this better by myself because it's not this, it's like, this is my time, right? So you're right about that.
Yeah. So this has been so fun.
Yes,
Thank you for
yes.
doing this with me. Um, and let me see, I have a little note here. A life of healing and personal evolution is a juicier life. I just love the word juicy. It's like
I do too.
ripe with deep emotions, awakenings, and new experiences. Love it, love it, love it, love it.
Love it, love
Um,
it, love it. Thank you so much for the invitation. It was so fun.
Thank you for being on. Is there anything you want to tell us where to find you, or
You can
anybody's got
find,
wants to buy or sell some property?
if you want to buy or sell a house, you can email me at kayatrail@kw.com. It's kayatrail@kw.com. And
And I'll put it in
on
the
social,
notes too.
okay, and on social media, if you go to IG or Facebook, Atlanta Opulence or Rakaya Trail.
All right. Well, cool beans. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you,
I
Trish.
wish
It was so
everybody
fun.
listening, and Coop's going to say bye too. Look at his face. I wish everybody listening passion, purpose, and the realization of your fullest potential. I hope you guys all enjoyed today's live. You can sign the pledge for Juicy Your Life's Journey on my website, which is trishajelroberts.com. That's Trish, AHJEL, Roberts.com. So good night, everyone. May your journey be juicy. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.